Hello and welcome back to another sewing tutorial. My name is Ann-Sophie and I'm the person behind Sewing with Solana. And today I'm showing you how we can make a wedding guest dress. And we're gonna make the Amelie dress and turn it into a maxi dress. And then I'm gonna show you how we can have like one long side slit, which I think is so nice. And I really think this is such a nice wedding guest dress. And I've wanted to a wedding before. I'm going to a wedding again in a couple of weeks, and I'm seriously thinking about wearing that dress because I think it's so beautiful. But I'm also going to film a second tutorial for you showing you how to make another maxi dress. But to make that, I need to go to Barcelona and buy the fabric for it, because it's really hard finding nice satin fabric for me here in Australia. Like, I'm really struggling. If you have any good fabric stores, online stores that I can go in person and feel the fabric, let me know. But yeah, there's a really good fabric store that has super nice satin fabrics and so many beautiful colors. So I'm gonna go there in a couple of weeks and then come back. And then before I fly to Bali for the wedding, I'm gonna film a second wedding guest dress tutorial for you. But let's focus on today. So we're gonna make the Amelie dress into a maxi dress. I've worn this before to a wedding and I think it's so beautiful. And it's also a super nice dress for like a nice dinner in the evening or for your graduation. And yeah, so nice. I'm really excited to show you how to do it. I'm gonna show you which changes we need to make to the sewing pattern. There's not much. You just need to make it longer and a little bit wider towards the end. So, my phone. Hello. Okay, I don't know what I was just saying, but we should get started and make the beautiful Amelie maxi dress. Let's go. So you could either make this dress making straps using a fabric, or what I really like to do for the Amelie dress is to use this thin polyester satin band as straps, which I think looks so nice and elegant, having super thin straps. I bought this in Barcelona, but I'm gonna insert a photo here of a screenshot of what I found on Amazon. And then you need some elastic. Mine is 1 centimeter wide. I need 2 pieces that are, I'm making my dress in a size small. I need 2 pieces that are 13 centimeters long that are gonna be sewn in here, and then it's gonna scrunch the top together here. And then a 29 centimeter piece of elastic that's gonna be sewn in here on the back piece. And this pattern piece we're gonna leave as it is. And the front and the back pattern piece, I'm gonna make mine 75 centimeters longer. And then once it's 75 centimeters longer, I'm gonna make it also 4 centimeters wider, and exactly the same for the front pattern piece. Here you can see the 2 new sewing pattern pieces. I've just laid the mini dress version on top, and then you can see how I just made it 75 centimeters longer and just a few centimeters wider towards the end. So now we have 2 really, really long pattern pieces that we need to cut out. Here you can see that the pattern would only be this wide at the bottom, but I made it 4 centimeters wider here and then just connected it to up there. And the same for the back pattern piece. I also made it 4 centimeters wider. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to start with my front pattern piece, and my fabric has a good and a bad side. I don't think it's very visible on camera, but the two sides of the fabric look a little bit different. So just choose for your fabric which is the good side, which is the bad side. I prefer this side a little bit better. It looks a little bit more smooth. So I'm going to have the bad side face me, and then this part up here, I'm going to fold it down 1 centimeter and 1 centimeter again. And then I'm going to go over to the iron, press it flat because it makes it a bit easier to sew it in a second. And then I'm going to sew from here to over here. And then I take my back pattern piece and also have the bad side facing me. And the first thing, so this up here, the top of the back piece, which is the one that's like a little bit thinner, like not as wide as the bottom. Let me show you the pattern piece. So this is from the mini dress, and here, if you would fold it up, you would see that the top is quite a few centimeters smaller than the bottom. So you want to focus on this part up here. And first you iron it down 1/2 centimeter. And then if you're also using 1 centimeter white elastic, you want to fold it down 2 centimeters. And then if you're also using thin straps like me, like straps that are not made out of the fabric, then you need to cut out a around 10 centimeters long piece of fabric, around 5 centimeters wide, and then we fold it in half. And then we're going to sew with a 1 centimeter seam allowance away from the folded edge. Then I'm just going to cut off the extra seam allowance. Then you can either take a loop turner or a safety pin. I think the safety pin would be too big. So I'm going to take a loop turner. And then once you have it flipped, you can go over to the iron and iron it flat. I bit all my fingernails off yesterday, so this is a bit harder. Oh, why do I bite my nails? Now I take my elastic and I'm going to cut my piece of elastic 29 centimeters long now. In the general info file of the sewing pattern, you can find some more information about how long the elastic needs to be. It's always a bit hard recommending because all elastics are a bit different. Like some are super tight, some are super stretchy. But I'm going to make mine in a size small, make it 29 centimeters long. What I can recommend you is at the beginning, it's always a bit easier to make it longer. And then when you try it on for the first time before you overlock it, so before you overlock it, try it on and then you can see how it fits. If it's too loose, if it's too tight, you can still change the elastic. But yeah, here's my elastic. And now I'm going to put a safety pin on here And I would actually recommend you to put a safety pin also on the other side, but I don't have any close to me right now, so I'm just going to put a normal pin in here. And then you take your back piece and the end with the safety pin, you start pushing it through the tunnel that we have sewn. And once we get to this point, then I take, because right now there's no tension on the elastic, so I can take this pin off, and now I line up the end of the elastic with the fabric. And now I'm going to go over to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew over it a few times to sew in the elastic so it's not coming undone again. And then you start pushing out the elastic and the safety pin. Now you really want to make sure that your elastic didn't get twisted along the way. So just make sure, feel that it all feels good. And then you take the safety pin off. Carefully line up the end of the elastic with the fabric here. And now we're going to do the same over here and sew over here a few times. So now you need 2 pieces of the strap that we have sewn. I made mine, I told you 10 centimeters, but I made mine accidentally way too long. And now, once I had cut it to 10 centimeters, I folded it in half. So now I have 2 5-centimeter long pieces here. And then what we're gonna do, we're gonna fold them in half again, because then we have a little loop here where later on our strap can go through, like this. So in total we have 4 bust cups cut out. I'm gonna show it to you now for 2 pieces that are gonna become 1. But then everything that I do now, you then have to repeat for your other 2 pieces. So what we do, first we have 1 bust cup in front of us, good side facing. Then here, I forgot to cut the little notch, but there should be a notch 1 centimeter away from here. It's on the sewing pattern piece. I just forgot to cut it in my fabric. I just realized. So then you take your 5-centimeter long piece here, fold it in half, and then you put it right here where your little notch should be. I pin it in place. And then I take one of my straps and I put it right in the corner here. I can't really pin this in place. So yeah, I'm just gonna put it there later on when I sew. But what you basically want to do, the strap goes here in this very corner here. So when you sew, make sure it's right here. And then you take your other bust cup, good side and good side are facing each other now. And then we sew from here, sew in the strap and sew over the strap a couple of times just to make sure it's really not coming undone again. Then we go this way and then we go down here. So this part stays open. And now my strap is right here. What you want to do now is you really want to pull hard on your strap down here to test if it's sewn in properly, because you don't want to wear the dress and it coming undone. So really pull super hard on it, and then if it doesn't come loose, then you can be sure that it's going to stay in place. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut this little bit off here, and also along here I'm going to trim a bit of the seam allowance away. And now what you want to do is you want to flip it and press it flat. So often I just first press the seam allowance here open from the top. And here we have our bus cap. And then you should do the same to your other one. Now I'm setting my sewing machine to a zigzag stitch, and I have the length at 2.5 and here at 5. And then I need two 13 centimeter long pieces of elastic. And now what we do, we put the elastic in between the two layers of fabric, and then we're gonna sew it with a zigzag stitch in here. And while you sew, you wanna stretch your elastic, and then it's gonna gather together like this. So the first few stitches you're gonna do, you're not gonna pull the elastic, just to really sew it in here. And then once the elastic is really sewn in, then you can sew and stretch. And then you can cut off the rest of the elastic, because there's always going to be a few centimeters of elastic sticking out where you were pulling on it. Same for your other bus cap. And now we're going to do a long stitch, because we need to gather the fabric along here, the part where it's still left open. So we're going to do a stitch all the way along here, don't front and back stitch, and then we can gather the fabric together. So I set my sewing machine back to a straight stitch. I adjust the stitch length to as high as possible. And then I move my needle a bit to the right. Make sure you have a bit of thread hanging towards the back of your machine. Then I set my settings back to normal again. Now we're gonna sew the bus caps onto the front piece. So we're gonna lay our front in front of us. And you wanna have the good side facing you now. So here where we have folded it inwards, this is gonna face the table. So this is gonna face us now. And then you take one of your bus caps, doesn't matter which one. And here is where we have sewn in the elastic. I'm just gonna start with this one. If I would wanna start with this one, I could still use the same, If I would wanna start here, I could use the same bus cap, and then I would just fold it this way, because we're gonna pin it along here and sew it along here. And then once it's sewn, then you're gonna flip it up, and then it's gonna be where you want it to be. So let's just start with this one, really doesn't matter. Now here, up here where the elastic is, and here's the strap, I'm gonna pin it up here. And then I'm gonna, here, where we have done the long stitch, this is what we're gonna pin along here. So I'm then gonna pin the other end on the edge. It's important that you leave around 1.5 centimeters more or less on this side. So this is the length of the front dress. So here you leave a little gap, and then you attach your cap, because later we're gonna fold this towards the inside, but and now you can see that the bust cap is too big, which is why we've done the long stitch. So now we can gather the fabric together. And gathering the fabric together, you just hold on to one piece of thread. And then you just pin it along. And now we're gonna sew along here. I'm first gonna do one bust cap, then once we have sewn this, then we can do the other bust cap over here. So this is what it looks like now. And now I'm gonna do the same for the other bust cap. I'm gonna pin it along here. Remember to leave a few centimeters here, 1.5 more or less, then gather the cup together. And now I'm gonna overlock over what we have just sewn. And then I take my big needle to hide the overlock seam just as at the top of the cups, not here on the sides, that we can leave for now. And I just push it through my stitching, through my overlock seam, put the end of the threads here, pull it out, and then I can cut the rest off. Okay, so now we need to decide on which side of your body you want the long side slit to be. So here's the front of my dress, and I want the slit to be on this side. So this side, my right side, is going to be completely closed. So what I'm going to do, first I'm going to focus on this side where there's not going to be a side slit. So on the sewing pattern there's a little notch marked. So from the little notch here I'm going to pin the back of the dress together and just sew it as we do with the mini dress. Pin it together, sew it with a normal sewing machine, and then we overlock it. And then on this side where I want my long side slit to be, what we're gonna do, we're first gonna overlock this complete side from the top to the bottom, same to the back piece, and then I'm gonna show you what to do next. But first, let's just sew the one side without the slit. Okay, so here I have the front of my dress laying in front of me with the good side facing up. And then I take my back piece, lay it on top with the two good sides facing each other. And then here where the little notch is, which is marked on your sewing pattern like this, I made a little cut here. And I'm gonna pin the top of my skirt right here. And then I'm gonna pin and sew the front and the back together all the way along to the end of the dress. So I'm gonna start sewing here till the end over there. It's such a long dress. Now I'm going to press the seam allowance open. And even though now I've pressed the seam allowance apart, we're going to put it back together now. And I'm going to start overlocking from the very bottom all the way past the point where we have sewn the front and the back together, all the way to up here where we've attached the bust cap, and just make sure that the bust cap is folded down like this. So it looks like this from the other side. And now what you want to do is, now you're just going to overlock the other side of the back piece, just like this one layer. Just overlock it. And then you're going to do the same to the side of the front. Just overlock it. Then I'm gonna add the back piece here, finish the overlock, seam. And now you need to find your little notch. I can still see mine even though I've overlocked it. So I'm gonna start pinning the back and the front together, but this time obviously because we wanna leave a long slit, we're not going to pin it to the very end here. Now it depends a bit how deep, how long you want your slit to be. I'm gonna pin mine, starting like measuring from the back piece here. 42 centimeters, more or less. So I'm just going to measure 42 centimeters and then stick a pin in here, just so I know where to stop pinning and where to stop sewing. And now I'm just going to pin the front and the back together until here. And then I'm going to go to my sewing machine and then I'm going to sew it. Start here and finish right here. Now I'm going to press the seam allowance open here. And then here, you also press the seam allowance open and then you just keep pressing it to the end of the dress, just like this. And then obviously the same for the other side. And now I'm going to start sewing at this end here. And basically what you want to do is you want to sew this part, like the seam allowance, the overlock part, onto the fabric. So I'm going to start here, then we go to up here, then I make sure my needle is down, then I move the fabric, then I sew across here, then I make sure the needle is down again, move the fabric, and then I sew down all the way to the end of the dress. I make sure the needle is down, then I move the fabric, do a few stitches, make sure the needle is down, move the fabric again, and then it looks like this from the outside. Now we need to fold this little part here that we have left. We fold it like this and then sew from here in a very slight diagonal line to up here. And then we do the same on the other side. So we fold it towards the inside of the front, fold this down like this, and then from here where the elastic is, we're gonna sew to up here. Okay, so there's only one step left to do now. This dress is so nice. I absolutely love the open back and the side slit, and I don't know, it's like the most beautiful, long, black, elegant dress, but the open back and the thin straps make it so special. I love this dress. So there's one step left to do, and that is to hem your dress. So I think it would be amazing if you would already know what kind of shoes you want to wear, because then you can make it the perfect length. I don't know yet what kind of shoes I'm gonna wear if I end up wearing this to the wedding that I'm invited to. So I think I will. I think this is honestly the most beautiful dress for a wedding. So yeah, I don't know yet if I'm gonna wear heels with a big heel, like high heels, or if I'm just gonna wear some heels that have like a tiny heel. I don't know yet. So what I'm gonna do, my dress is quite long, so I can do both options. I think I'm just gonna hem it now that I could wear it with high heels and just fold it up 1 centimeter, 1 centimeter again. And then if I decide, like before we fly over to the wedding and I'm packing my suitcase and thinking what shoes I'm gonna take, then I can just shorten the dress again. Shortening a dress, I feel like, is always so quick, only takes 2 minutes. So I'm just gonna leave it long now, fold it up 1 centimeter, 1 centimeter again, and then we're finished. And I love this dress so much. I'm so excited. So we've made it to the end of the sewing tutorial now. I love how my maxi dress turned out. I love the Amelie dress so much. I designed it in 2020, so it's been with me for a very long time, and yeah, I've made so many beautiful memories wearing the mini dress, also the maxi dress. So I'm very happy that I finally filmed a maxi dress tutorial for you. I can't wait to show you photos of me wearing it when I go to Bali. I'm 99% sure I'm gonna wear it. But as I said at the beginning, I'm also gonna go to Barcelona soon to buy new fabrics. And there's another wedding guest dress that I wanna make, also to show you how to make it and for me to have as a possible outfit option. But yeah, please tag me in your photos and videos if you also decide to make the Amelie Maxi dress and wear to a special occasion. It always makes me so happy to see. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope I see you soon again. Goodbye.